Hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD 1111 database-driven web development class, I've decided to do a series of video presentations that are based on the PDFs that have been created for us by Mr. Flavio Copes and his Valley of Code website. I have gone through this 74-page HTML handbook that you can see right here, the Valley of Code HTML handbook, 74 pages, and I'm currently about 10% of the way through his second one, which is the Valley of Code CSS handbook. All right, and I've decided right now I've got a very, very simplistic site up here that doesn't do a whole heck of a lot, but this is it. It's got a home page with some stuff on it, and an about page and a contact page. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to add some CSS to try to make this look a little bit nicer. All right, now you may not agree when we get done about how nice it does or does not look, but that's okay. All right, so in my styles, I'm going to jump down here, and I'm first going to target my unordered list, but it's the nav bar unordered list. I want to make sure that's the one that I'm targeting. So I'm going to say list style type none. All right, it's the first thing I've done. What did that do? Got rid of the bullets that were at the front there. All right, I'm going to do a little and then check it and do a little more, then check it, etc. Now I'm going to say margin 0, padding 0, overflow, just there it won't be any, but just in case there is, I want it to be hidden. And background, you can either say background or you can say background color, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to make it black. Now don't worry if I can't see the stuff anymore. It'll come back in just a bit. It's fine. But that's what I've done. Okay, not a whole heck of a lot, but you can start to see, hopefully you can start to see this taking shape. All right, now the next thing I want to do is I want to target, my nav bar list items. I'm working my way down. So I started with the unordered list. Now I'm going to the list items. So nav ul, and I'm going to tell it to float to the left. Okay. As of right now, that may not look any different. Okay. We've got that. Float left. Okay. Actually, it does look quite a bit different, but don't worry. We're going to keep working on this. So, and what I want to do is, because I don't like the way that looks right now, is I want to come in here and after we've got our stuff, before we even have our H1, I'm going to put a div in there and I'm going to give it a class equal to CLR for clear. All right. Why? Well, it's easiest to show you. All right, I'm telling it to clear any floats that have been set up. All right, it didn't do anything, but I was surprised. That's okay. That's all right. We're just going to keep going, okay? All right. Next, I want to, in my nav, UL that what was supposed to float left there was the LI. That might be why it looks so funky. That's better. That's what I wanted. Okay, and you may or may not be able to tell, but these all look like they're stuck together, for lack of better words. All right, you're going to see that in just literally 1 second. Now my LIA, now I'm going to add, I'm going to add a few things to this. But the first one I'm going to add so you can see these is I'm going to make the color white. Whoop. Now you can see how these are all stuck together. All right. All right, let's just keep going. Oops. So what else do I want to do? These are for the anchor tags that are in here. I want to say this will be the big one that you've seen. Hopefully you remember this. Display block. Now, as soon as I do that, watch how different it looks here. All right. Well, it didn't, but it will. So display block. All right. The color. Let's do a text align. Center. Let's do a text decoration. That's the underlining. We'll do none. And finally, let's put in some padding. So 1 rem. All right, let's see what that did. All right, we've got this. Now that doesn't look too bad. We can move that over. There's all sorts of stuff that we can do in here if we want to or need to do that. All right. I'm just going to leave it right here for right now. Now, how about when we hover over these? Okay. Let's change the background color. And I want it to stand out. I don't know how much this will stand out, but this is just the way that I did it. So, whoops. So when I'm hovering over that, I want the background, and I'm just going to make it red. All right. So again, I'm just making a change, going back and looking at it. So that's my hover. Okay. And let's take whatever the background is, or I'm sorry, whatever the active one is, let's flip it. Again, I'm not sure how this will look. I just kind of drew this out myself a bit ago, so we're just going to do it here. I'm going to just say current. So whatever the current class is, I'm going to make the background color, whoops, let's make it yellow. What is yellow? FFFF00. So notice there's hover and there's active. Now I should be able to switch. Okay, and it all still works. I should be able to switch, and it all still works. Now, I went a little nutso there with the colors, but I wanted you to see exactly what was going on right there. All right. The other thing, too, is as you're building this, when we go into our style, these are going to be our global styles, right? Because they're affecting the body. Technically, I don't need this anymore. I still have that. Okay, so those are my global styles. All right. But then once we got down to here, that was the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the nav bar. I'm going to grab all of the stuff in my nav bar that I just put in, and I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to come up and right underneath this clear, I'm going to come in and say nav bar. And I'm going to paste it in. Now, it should look exactly the same. You don't have to change it around like that. But the advantage of doing what I just did is I'm following this stuff, for lack of better words, pretty much here in sequence. All right, so let's jump back into here. Basic selectors. So I've already shown you how to target a paragraph. I've shown you how you can add to a paragraph a class. I've also shown how you can add to a paragraph an ID. So you've seen all this that's in here so far. All right. All right. So targeting an element with a class or with an ID. Okay, so it says if you're using this class, we can do this. So you can say P dot, or you can say P hashtag. So in other words, earlier when I had done this, for this paragraph class, I could have said P dot here, and I could have said P like that. Just to show you, all right, I'm going to change these. So I'm going to make these green and gold. So let's see, just so you see it. So this one I'm going to make green. And I'll use the color they have there, 008,000. So pound 008,000. And this I'm going to make gold, which is FFD700. All right, and then I'm going to flip these two. So these, this will be FFD700, and it doesn't matter, remember, when you do this, if you use uppercase letters, lowercase letters, or even mix them. I don't know why you do that, but. All right, so now I have flipped those. Just to show you that putting the P in front of the dot or putting the P in front of the ID or hashtag, it won't matter. It still will work. So when I go home, notice it's now green and gold. All right, okay. Let's continue on then. It says, why would you want to do this? And put the P in there. It says it's providing more specificity. And it says we'll talk about specificity later. You can add multiple classes. All right. So here we're adding a class named dog name, and we're also adding a class named Roger. And we could have even put the P in front of that to be even more specific if we wanted to. All right. So let's see if we can do that. Not only that, you can combine and have both an ID and a class, which we'll look at in just a moment. All right. So we have this ID here, and we've got this class here. All right. Let's go and in our index file, this bolding and italicizing, I don't think we really need, well, I'm going to just leave it out like that. Let's go back to here where we've got this stuff. All right, so we've got the chocolate chip cookie stuff, and I don't need these definitions in here, so. All right, we'll leave it like that. I just want to make sure it's looking the way I want it to look. All right, I want this stuff in here. That's good. I don't think we really need these headings in here anymore either. at least for right now. So I'm going to just comment those out as well. There's nothing wrong with them. I just don't particularly want to use them right now. So, all right, so we've got these two things, and then we've got this. That's good. That's what I want. All right. Okay. Why am I showing you this? Because notice that I can come in here, and where I've got my H2, I can add that para class. So I'm going to come in here for this first one, and I'm going to say class equals para class. And for the next one, I'm going to come in here. Oops, I don't want it there. I'm sorry. I want it here. And for this one, I'm going to say class equals para ID. All right. You might say, well, why are you even doing this? Let me show you. All right. So as of right now, it doesn't look like I changed a flipping thing. So let's take a quick look. So we've got para class and para ID. Do I still have the para class and para ID? I do. But notice I put a P in front of them. All right. Let's remove that P to make them less specific, and then come back and look, and notice that's been changed. That one wasn't, but that one has been changed. Para class, para ID. That's ID equals. That's why. All right. Well, again, why am I doing this? Well, go back and look now, and notice these have both been changed. But now I want to be more specific. So in other words, I want to come in and I want to say, let's add another class to this. All right, and I'll use the same class for both of these. What I mean is, I'm going to add a class here, and it's going to be list class. All right, so I've got an ID, and I'm going to add class equals list class. Remember, this stuff is case sensitive. So I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to say list class. All right, why? I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to say font size 2 rem. I'm going to make it bigger, make it 2.5 rem. And I'm going to say width 25%. And again, you might say, I don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. Let's look. Notice how I made these bigger, and rather than this being 100%, it's now only 25%. So what I have just shown you in this example is how to go in here and how to target stuff in a specific way when we had the P in front of this, in a more non-specific way when we don't, and how to add another class, and how to take this second class and add it both to an existing class and after an ID. And it doesn't matter if you have the ID first and then the class, or the class first, then the ID. And this doesn't matter either here, which one of these you list first. All right. And again, I'm just trying to throw a bunch of stuff at you here. So that was the combining classes and IDs. Okay. You can combine selectors to apply the same declarations to multiple things. All right. So in other words, you're saying here, I want to do this yellow color both here and here. You can put commas in there. You can, it says you can add spaces in them to make them more clear. So there's different ways that you can set this up. This doesn't have to be on 2 different lines. You could put it on the same line if you want to do that. All right. Follow the document tree with selectors. It says we have seen how to target an element in the page by using a tag name, a class name, or an ID. You can create a more specific by combining multiple items to follow a document selector tree. All right. So this says I want a span, but it's a span within a paragraph. Well, guess what? I think we've already done this kind of thing in that up here, we said if I did not put nav in front of this, this would change every unordered list. And remember, we have an unordered list for our cookies. I'm not going to change that. But if we left this off, all right, and just put UL there, this would look markedly different than it currently does. In fact, let's do that. I will show you. I'm not going to show you on all these, but I'll just show you on the first one. So let me save this. Let me run this. So you see what this looks like right here with this unordered list. It's green with gold writing. Well, notice if I go back and I remove the nav part from here and I save it and I run it again, see how it's, I guess it's this one. See how it's changed? It's not 25% anymore. All right, etc. And I guess that was everything in that unordered list. So that's why. All the stuff that was in there has now got a black background. Okay, so if I do come in there and make the color white, just want you to see the stuff is still in there. All right, I'm not sure why it's not showing. Oh, because it's because I've targeted the entire unordered list. So right now, it's black, and everything underneath it is black. I don't need this. And I need the nav back there. So this says only the unordered list in my nav section. Only the LIs, only the list items in an unordered list in the nav section. Only the anchor tags that are part of a list item that are part of an unordered list in my nav section. So you can see how we're basically cascading our way down here. This was for our hover, and the only place I'm using current is inside of here. All right, but I think I could have done the nav. I don't know what it would have been. I would have had to sit and think about it for a minute. But now it should be back to where it's working again. There you go. All right, it says this works even if the element on the right is multiple levels deep. To make this discrepancy strict on the first level, you can use a greater than sign. All right. So this says spans, I believe this is spans only underneath a paragraph. It says in this case, if a span is not a first child of a paragraph, it won't have the color applied. If things are adjacent to one another, in other words, they're called sibling selectors, you can use a plus sign. I don't like to run through these because I have found that by and large it confuses people. All right. The cascade we talked about already with specificity. It says when you've got two or more competing styles, you need to know which one wins, so to speak. So here they've got a class, and then they've got another rule that's down below it. And as it says, when there's a tie, so to speak, the more specific rule wins. If they're at the same level, the one that appears last wins. And you can even go in and calculate specificity. And this gets fairly complex. So I'm going to show you something in just a moment. I'm not going to go through these slot things. All right. But before we get to this importance All right, before we get to this, I want to say one thing, and that is when I go back here, when I come back here and I start taking a look, and let's go back into here, all right? Again, this gets pretty confusing. So let's come down here, and this was our paragraph. Notice we made it 1.25 rem. All right. Well, if I come down here, all right, and this is the paragraph class, let's come here and make the font size. Let's make it 3 rem, so it's really big. All right. Now when I come back and look at this, you'll notice how big that is, right? But let's go back and let's flip the order of these around. So let's put this P stuff here, and we'll make this one bigger too. So we'll say font size, we'll make this 4 rem. And you can see now how big all of that is. But if I come down here and now put that back to 1.25 rem and look at it, it hasn't changed. Why didn't it change? It didn't change because adding this is more specific than adding this. That's the rules of specificity. So as you're working your way down here, I mean, what I'm trying to show you here is I'm trying to go from more general to more specific. All right. Now, there is a thing called importance. All right. I'm going to put this in here. And I'm going to come back in and let's comment this one out right here. This one that we just moved back to where it was. All right. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say font size, and I'm going to say here 0.5 rem, and I'm going to put that important thing there. All right. Now I'm going to say here font size 3 rem, font size 4 rem. All right, I'll put a 0 here even though it's not necessary. And I'm going to save this and run it. And what you should see is how little the things in here are. All right. Now, what changed? This changed. I said when you've got just a paragraph, I want you to override anything that might have been in here before earlier about paragraphs. The only thing, the reason I'm telling you this and what I want to tell you about this is be very, very, very conservative in your use of the important tag. Some people put it on everything, and after a while, it's as though it's not even there. All right, so get rid of these. I want this to look back at the way it was before. And I think it pretty much does now. Okay. All right. In general, it says you should use the amount of specificity you need, but not anymore. The important is a highly debated tool. It says many CSS experts advocate against using it. All right. Now, tools to calculate specificity, I'm not going to go into that now. But rather than going into that right now, I want to show you something. Okay? And what I'm about to show you, there's more than one way of doing it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here And I am going to look up Eric Myers CSS reset. And that should be an M. There we go. All right, reset. Eric Myers reset, meyerweb.com. And I'm going to grab this whole thing right here. I am going to copy it to the clipboard. I am going to bring up a brand new file, but I want it under CSS. And this is going to be reset.css. And I'm going to paste that in. All right. And the easiest way to show you this is to go back in. I'm going to go in just in my home page here, just so you see it right away. Where I've got this style sheet, I'm going to change this to reset. Just that one. All right, now I'm going to run this. And what you'll notice is how very different this now looks. All right. Why? Because the only thing we have in there is reset, which basically removed all the margins and all the padding. So if I come back in here now, and you want to make sure if you ever use a reset like this, you put it before your non-reset file. So this will be styles. All right. And it's not back again. Why? Because notice with that reset, it moved a bunch of junk. All right. Well, how can I make that look a little bit nicer? Well, I'll show you one thing I can do to help. I'm not saying it's going to totally fix it, but under my styles, I'm going to come back up to the top, and I'm just going to say padding 1 rem for the body. Let's see what that did. Not too much. All right. So I'd have to go in there and start undoing this or whatever. Let's do a little bit of that. All right. We've got here, this is the home page. Okay. Well, that's an H1, right? I think everybody would agree with that, or hopefully everybody would agree with that. So let's go back to here. And after our nav bar here, all right, let's go to our H1. And let's just give it a size. So font size, we'll make it 2 rem. I'm not saying that's the right size. I'm saying that's the one we're going to use. Also, let's put some padding of 1 rem all the way around. All right. And we'll also put a margin. In fact, let's just do that so you can see what that looks like. All right. So there it is. Okay. Not really that big, but it's big enough, I think. Let's put some margin left in here. In fact, let's not even do that. Let's text align this to the center. And we'll make it double the size it was, just so we can see that indeed it's taking effect. So there it is. This is the home page. All right. That's probably too big. So let's cut that down. Make it about 2.5. All right. The captions of this I'm not going to worry about. Let's do the same kind of thing here. So with our paragraphs, let's put padding here of 1 rem as well. All right. All I'm trying to do is pretty this back up again. Now you can see that. This is great because it's allowing me to show you the difference between padding and margin, which is fantastic. All right. Now, I'm going to very much exaggerate this because I want you to see the difference. So if I come through here and say padding 3 rem, not 31, that'd be ridiculous, but 3 rem, you can see padding is the area inside of the element itself. I don't want that. I don't want padding to be set to 3 rem. All right. Rather than padding being set to 3 rem, what I want is margin to be set to 3 rem. Now, look at the difference. All right. Now there's no padding in here, and it would probably be nice if I put in a little bit. So let's come back in here, because you can have both margin and padding. Totally fine. And let's put in padding 1 rem. And it doesn't matter the order in which you put these things. I think you already know that. There. Now that looks a little bit nicer. All right, so we're building this back up again. That still all is okay. That still all works, but there's nothing on those pages. So we've got this. Let's start working on this. Well, this is our H2 here, and this is an H3 here, and this is an H3 here. So those are working. So let's target this H2. Now we had said that our H1, in fact, let's just copy all this. And this will be our H2. So let's make this just 2 rem. And again, we'll put the padding in there, and we won't align it. All right, let's also add a little bit of margin. So margin, 1 rem. All right, and there's that. So that's looking a little bit better now. Okay, we might want to put some more in there so that line, it's fine the way it is. So let's come in and do these. These are our H3s. And again, for our H3s, let's make the font size 1.5 rem. And again, we'll add some padding and we'll add some margin. And you can see this is looking pretty decent again. Now in here, these are our list items. So we can do the same thing in there. Now you got to be careful because we want to make sure we're targeting the right things. So we want to be targeting the list items here and the list items here. But remember, these are list items as well. We do not want to target those. So we've got to go back in, take a look at our HTML. And I'm noticing here that when we did these, what do we have? We've got para, we've got list class. Well, that's good. That we should be able to use that. So did we do anything so far with list class? Just with list class. We did font size and width. Okay, fine. Let's come in and add some margin and some padding. And now we push that over. Looks like we could push it over a little bit more than we have. And in fact, I'm thinking the reason that didn't work, I'm going to grab these and get these out of here. I'm going to try dot list class, and I want the LIs. It still didn't work. Oh, that's because that's H3 that we applied that to. Okay. Let's put a just going to put in here a class equal list. I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to put it here. All right. So then I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to say dot, I'm sorry, OL UL dot list and UL should be an LI. Still didn't move them. So what am I doing wrong? Oh, it's the OL and the UL themselves. There we are. Okay, now it'd be nice to have probably a little bit of margin here between these. And we'll just put margin bottom on here, just the bottom. If I put the word margin in there, it changes everything. All right, so that gave me margin. Try this. I don't know why it wouldn't work. Now I've got a little bit of space between each of these. If you say it does, I don't see it. Well, notice right now it's set to 0.5 rem, and if I set it from 0.5 rem, I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit just so you can see. I'm going to make it 1.5 rem and save. And now you notice the big difference between each one. All right, I liked it better at 0.5 or 0.5 rem. So what I've done is I built this, tore it apart with a reset, and have kind of rebuilt it again, just so you can see what's going on in here. All right, that's my goal right now. All right, and I'm way over on time. I'm going to stop right now and pick it up in just a sec.